This video is brought to you by Letsynthesize Academy, the #1 place for practical-oriented courses for serious music producers. Yo, Dan Larson here. In this video I'm going to show you 5 new tips on Ableton that will speed up your workflow in an instant, so stay with me, these are going to be killer. Okay, so my favorite thing in Ableton is the drum rack. I use it daily, and not only for drums, but for basically everything. Now there is a feature in the drum rack that I'm sure that you don't really use, and that is the choke groups, and let me show you how I use it and what it is good for. Okay, so let's say you have this very nice dubstep groove. Now as you can hear, we have some toms playing and kick also. Now the problem here is that they overlap each other, and as you can see here, the tom warps the transient of the snare, which is not very good if you want to achieve very snappy and punchy results and mixes, and also the other tom overlaps with the kick, which results some serious distortion basically. So what you want to do is put all the toms and the kick to the same choke group that will prevent you overlapping each other. Tip number 2 is still about the drum rack. Now what I love in the drum rack, it is so flexible, and you know, when you make a drum group you really want to process, for example, the tops separately. Now let me show you how to do it by grouping sounds. This is actually a very important thing here. So if you go to the chain and select all the hi-hats, all the tops that you want to process together, hit Ctrl G, and boom, you just made a sub rack or a sub chain that you can call like tops. And from this point you can go to audio effects and put, for example, a glue compressor and start tweaking it. If you want to learn more about Ableton, just click here. Here I am sharing 5 more tips on Ableton. Tip number 3. Now this is still about a drum rack, and you know, when you have a very nice drum rack where you created your own drums, you just want to, for example, exclude some of the sounds, for example the tops or the percussion section or anything like that, and use it in a separate track. This can be very handy if you want to process the intro drums and the drop drums separately. Let me show you how to do it in 1 second in the drum rack. Let's use the previous example. So select all the hits that you want to exclude from the rack and use it as a separate track in a separate track. Right click on them and extract chains. And boom, you have a separate drum rack with all the MIDI exported. This is huge. Now before we go forward, let me encourage you to subscribe for weekly very awesome production videos. Tip number 4. The utility tool in Ableton 10 is very crazy. Now there is a very little trick that I use a lot, not even for mixing, but for sound designing stuff. And that is a little trick to switch to MidSide mode from the width mode in the utility tool. Now take your utility tool and right click on the width and choose MidSide mode. Now this is huge because if you group it and make a new chain, duplicate it, and you can, for example, rename it to mid, and the next one is side. Push up the knob to the right to select the side, and on the mid, pull it back to the left to select the mid. Now your possibilities are endless to create very exciting things on the side and on the mid of your signal. Tip number 5. Now in Ableton 10.1 we have this very cool delay device, and I use that to transform a very boring synth sound into a very cool techno-ish kind of sound. So from this to this. Okay, so I put this plucky kind of sound into a techno environment, so this is how it sounds now. So what I did with the delay device is simply I use a modulation section. And what it does is basically it's just an LFO that drags the delay time and the filter at the same time, creating this very nice techno-ish kind of effect. So what do you think? Are these tips very cool? Did you like it? And what are your best practices in Ableton? Let me hear you, I love reading your comments. If this video helped you out, drop a thumbs up and consider subscribing because a lot more cool stuff are coming. Okay, so these were my 5 tips about Ableton that I use a lot. I hope this helped you out and inspired you a lot. And stay tuned for more. See you next time, guys. Peace!
Who wants the bass?